Okay, so in this video, we're going to start talking about polynomials. So let's look at some definitions. What is a polynomial? Well, first we need to talk about what's a monomial. A monomial is an expression that is a number or a product of a number with one or more variables. We've talked about monomials before. What about a binomial? We've also talked about binomials before, which is the sum of two monomials. So if we're looking at a monomial, we're talking about like 3x. Could also be like 3x squared. We're talking about a binomial, we're talking about adding these two monomials. If we're talking about trinomial, the sum of three monomials. So let's say we now have our 3x plus 3x squared. Now we're going to add 2x. So when we're talking about trinomial, we have three things. So mono, which you should know that Latin root, 1. Binomial, bi, we have 2. Tri, we have 3. So what about poly? Well, poly means many. So polynomial means a monomial or sum of monomials. So polynomial means many nomials. So monomial, binomial, trinomial, polynomial. So in this video, we're talking about polynomials, talking about a bunch of monomials. Okay, so let's talk about the degree of a monomial. Well, the degree of a monomial is the sum of the exponents of its variable. Okay, so for a non-zero constant, the degree is 0. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's find the degree of each monomial. So if we have 4x to the first, the degree is 1. Or if I just had, it's been on here so long, I won't erase. 4x, which we know is the same as 4x to the first, the degree is going to be 1, and that's because the exponent is 1. What if I have 6y squared, w to the 8th? Add your exponents, so your degree is 10. I added 2 and 8. I got a degree of 10. Remember, this isn't normally how we combine exponents because the bases are different, but in this case, we add them. Okay, what about negative 5? Well, in this, our degree is 0 because it's only a constant. Remember, you've got to have exponents to have a degree. Okay, what about 6 over x? This is not a monomial because the variable is in the denominator. So, to review what we did, here the degree was 1 because our variable was 1. Even if you can't see that variable, it's 1 because of that understood 1. We talked about that forever now. Here our degree was 10 because we added those variables. Here it was 0 because we had no exponent, it was just the constant. Here, this is not a monomial. Okay, still talking about, now we're going to the degree of a polynomial. The last slide we were talking about the degree of a monomial. Now we're going back to polynomial. So the degree of a monomial with the greatest exponent. Okay, so here I have 3x to the 4th plus 5x squared minus 7x plus 1. So here I have my polynomial, a whole bunch of monomials in there. Here the degree would be 4. Because this 3x to the 4th, my 4 is the largest exponent. So it's got a degree of 4. So this time I can't add everything together because there's plus and minus signs in between. So my degree is 4. What about here? Wx squared, or w squared plus 2. Well, this 2 is just a constant. It actually has no degree. So here, my degree of 2 makes this w squared my highest. So the degree here is just 2. Okay, so let's look at standard form of a polynomial. It says the degree of its monomial terms decrease from left to right. So when we look at how we want to write a polynomial and when we're putting in standard form, we want to go from left to right, just like you read something, and the monomial term with the highest degree should always be on the left, decreasing to your constant. So in this case, 8x to the 4th should go on your left, your constant should be on the right, and whatever comes in between should be in the middle. So in this case, 2x squared. So notice going from left to right, highest degree is on the left, constant on the right. Here, didn't have as many terms. 2x is on the left because it has the highest degree with a degree of 1, that understood 1, with your constant of 5 over there. Okay, so again, number with the highest exponent gives it the greatest degree. okay? And you write it in number of decreasing degrees to be in standard form. Okay? After you simplify a polynomial, you can name it based on its degree or number of monomials that it contains. So I have this large chart here. Here I have some polynomials. Notice they are all written with decreasing degrees. So here I have 7x plus 4 has a degree of 1 because of the understood 1. This is linear. Hopefully you recognize this is in slope-intercept form. Has two terms, 7x and 4. It's a binomial. Okay, here, 3x squared plus 2x plus 1. The degree is 2. This is a quadratic. You know that if we graphed it, it's going to make a parabola. It has 3 terms, so therefore we call it a trinomial. Okay, what about this? This polynomial is, has one term with a degree of 3 because there's a 3 above our variable. It's cubic because of this 3. It has one term, so we call it a monomial. What about this? 9x to the 4th plus 11x. It has a degree of 4 because of this exponent of 4. Makes it a 4th degree. We don't have anything like linear, quadratic, cubic. It has 2 terms, and it would be a binomial. What about here? 5. That's our polynomial. It is to the 0 degree because there is no exponent. We call it a constant. The number of terms is 1. So let's rename this. Although it is a whole number, we're not going to just call it whole. We're going to go back and call this a monomial. Okay? So this is how you can name it, by terms of degree. Our names using degrees. And the name using the number of terms. These are all words you should be familiar with. Binomial, trinomial, monomial, linear, quadratic, cubic, all terms that you need to be familiar with. Okay? Classifying polynomials. Let's write each polynomial in standard form and name it based on its degree and number of terms. So if you look at this one, I have 6x squared plus 7 minus 9x to the 4th. This is not in decreasing form, so we need to rewrite it. Remember, your highest degree needs to come first. So we're going to rewrite this. This negative goes with this 9x to the 4th. So when we rewrite this, it should become negative 9x to the 4th. It is okay to have your negative in front. Then this, even though it's not there, is a positive 6x squared. So it becomes negative 9x to the 4th plus 6x squared plus 7. This plus goes with the 7. So when we write it, it looks like this, negative 9x to the 4th plus 6x squared plus 7. And it is a 4th degree polynomial. Okay, so let's look at this next one. Make sure whatever sign is in front of it stays with it. So this negative stays with the 10. This positive stays with this 4q to the 4th. This negative stays with 8q, and this plus stays with 3q squared. Okay, so we're going to start with 4q to the 4th plus 3q squared minus 8q minus 10. Make sure you move the sign with the number. Okay, this one's also a 4th degree polynomial with 4 terms. We didn't talk about how many terms it had up here, but it would have 1, 2, 3. This one has 4 terms. Okay, what about this one? How do we rewrite this? Remember, this negative stays with the 3x squared. So this becomes negative 3x squared plus 4x. It's a quadratic binomial. How do we know it's quadratic? Because it's an x squared. Anything squared is a quadratic. Okay, and what is this? Negative 15. We don't need to rearrange it. It just becomes negative 15. It's a constant because anything without variables with it is called a constant, and it's just a monomial. So we call this a constant monomial. Okay, so that's an introduction to polynomials. We're going to do a lot of work with them, so make sure you understand the basics.